Let's bring in Hollywood divorce attorney David Glass for more on this. David.
People going through divorces are going through some of the hardest times of their lives, and a lot of what they're going through is emotional. And in any divorce, there's a huge sense of loss, and loss of relationship, of money, some friends.
Welcome to our fourth season of the Hourglass Podcast, where family law and psychology intersect. Today, we continue with our People in the Know series. Some interesting interviews with well-known personalities who will share some advice and suggestions on getting through the divorce process. This episode features Larsa Pippen, a real housewife of Miami, an entrepreneurial businesswoman and socialite, and she was formerly married to NBA basketball champion Scottie Pippen. Larsa is going to talk a little bit about her divorce, but mostly about how she handled her divorce, her steps on getting through it. Hi, Larsa. Welcome to the Hourglass Podcast. Could you give our viewing audience just a little bit of background on the marriage?
So I was married to Scottie Pippen for 23 years. We have 4 amazing kids together, but I guess our relationship just, I don't know. It had its time. We had a great run. We had so much fun. But good things do come to an end, and our relationship came to an end.
When splitting up, many people have a pretty contentious time of it. But what about your divorce? How did it play out between you and Scottie?
I think for my relationship, I think we both try to do our best to break up and do it in a peaceful way. Because for me, that was really important. I feel like when you spend that much time with someone, they really are part of your family. I would never want it to be toxic or just not good energy in between us. So I feel like we both made an effort to, separate everything and move forward in the best way we knew.
I know for many high-profile individuals, the press often reports inaccurate or erroneous information. Did any of that happen to you?
I feel like, the media always gets it wrong. I feel like there were reports that, I was getting this huge lump sum of money from his pension. And I honestly don't even know what the amount is. I still don't know what the amount is. So I do feel like the media tends to get things wrong. When you're going through a divorce, it's not that simple. And I feel like when you've accumulated properties and investments, it's really hard to separate them after X amount of years. You change financial people, you change accountants. So I think it's it's pretty challenging when it's time to separate at the assets.
It sounds like with all those changes over 23 years, I would think that the press just might confuse the facts, given that there may have been shifts with financial teams and assets. And I know that can get complicated. What about handling the press when they did get it wrong? Did you ever confront them? Or better yet, what was your philosophy in handling that kind of frustration?
I don't know. I don't really talk to the press when they have things wrong. Normally, I just kind of let it be what it is. I feel like I know the truth. My family, my close friends know the truth. So I'm not really fazed by what the media says so much. I feel like at this point in my life, I've kind of come to the realization that not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to understand. And not everyone's going to, feel sorry for you and your situation. I think you have to go, when you're going through a divorce, you have to understand that you're going to make it out of this situation. You have to be optimistic. And I always said, for me, I would always say tomorrow is going to be a new day. Tomorrow is going to be a new day. And I kind of live by that. So every day it did get a little bit easier for me personally. That was kind of my personal experience.
Share with us, if you will, what you did during your darkest days. What were some of your go-tos for pick-me-ups when you were feeling low?
I feel like for me, when I was going through the darkest time of my divorce, I really relied on my friends that had gone through divorce. I think it's really important to ask people that have gone through similar situations, and because they really did prepare me for, what was going to happen. They're every day is going to be a new day. He's going to be crazy. You're going to be crazy. And just know that it's going to be okay. And I think a lot of times people are scared.
Now, when people are feeling uncertain or things are just plain getting crazy, what do you think is important for people to be aware of?
I feel like for women, I think when you've put in 20 some years in a relationship, I think before you exit that relationship, if you're in a long-term relationship where your husband is, the provider for your family, I think it's good to be prepared. Know how much money you have, know how you're going to live, like really do have an exit plan in place, because I do think that's important. And I think a lot of women don't have an exit plan. And so they feel like they're stuck, and you don't have to feel like you're stuck. I feel like as long as you're prepared, for me, like preparation is everything. And I swear by that.
Now, what would you say to a person who is beginning to move forward in their divorce? What are the top three things people should pay attention to in the early stages?
So I feel like there's three things that like really every woman or man should be prepared for. And I think it's your emotional stress. And I feel like just your mental, because it is really hard to go from being in a family home to being on your own when you don't have your kids. That's like super challenging. I feel like for a lot of women that I know, I think it's that time when you don't have your kids, and that could drive you crazy. I also feel like you really need to make sure your kids, feel good about the situation and really let them know that it's not their fault, that both parents love them, they're going to be there for them regardless. I feel like for me, I was going through, the thought of divorce way before we actually filed for divorce, but I felt like my kids were too young. And so I'm really happy that I waited to make sure that my kids felt good about the decision and they were old enough to be able to handle it. Because I do feel like the younger you are, I think it's harder when you're younger, because you definitely do need both parents when you're younger. And then, like I said, money. You need to know how you're going to live without your partner. That's, knowing you're going to have to separate assets, knowing you're going to have to separate bank accounts. And I think a lot of people need to be prepared for that. That's, a really important decision to make.
I know you tried to involve your kids in a positive way as you began the divorce process. How did you approach the subject with them? How did you keep it positive for them?
I feel like for me, I'm best friends with my kids. I really like to include them in everything. And I just kept going back to, hey guys, don't you want to have like a newer house? Don't you want to have something cool where you can redo your room? And maybe you want to be closer to the beach? Or I kind of made them feel like it was going to be a new experience, a new journey for us, and that it wasn't going to be negative. I don't think my kids ever really saw me cry or really go through it. I think in front of my kids, I tried to keep like, a positive attitude and an attitude of like, it's going to be okay, guys. Like, you're so lucky. You're going to have 2 homes, 2 bedrooms, 2 of everything. So I feel like they weren't really fazed by it as much when you go into it, like making them feel positive and, just good about the situation.
Let's face it, civility is often hard to come by when going through a divorce. What has been your approach to keeping it that way, civil? What kind of advice do you give to your friends when they're going through a divorce?
I mean, I am a firm believer that we all have to do our best to coexist, And so for me, I feel like it's always been a conscious thing for me to make peace with my ex, regardless to what it is. There have been crazy fights, crazy situations, but I think at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for your family, which is your kids, your joint situation. And so I never wanted to, be in a bad place with my ex. It's just not a good feeling. It's toxic for yourself, for your kids. Just, you don't win from that. So I feel like the advice that I always give my friends is to, if you can't communicate and it's always yelling and screaming, I think it's like really good to like write a long email where you express yourself, your concerns and how you feel. And, I would always finish it off by saying, I love you, because I did love him, and so I would write these long emails or long text messages, because I feel like you can always go back to that and reread it and just kind of like, see it from 2 different perspectives. I think a lot of times when people are arguing, I think it's hard to like get the good things. You only remember the bad things. And so I think when you write it, it does kind of, it takes a little bit longer for you to gather your thoughts and express yourself. And I think for me, and I try to tell my friends this all the time, is I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but I think if we just like take a beat and come back to the table and maybe write something down where you really get to express yourself and your feelings on paper than I think, or on text, I think it's easier. And I think that's a better way of like, expressing yourself.
Now, Larsa, you said something I find very interesting. You mentioned that when things got heated between you and Scottie, that you took a beat. You stepped back rather than arguing and you wrote him a long email so you could better express yourself. And importantly, you always signed the email, "I love you." What was behind that choice? Why did you choose to do that? And how did he react? Did it take him off the defensive?
I think like for us, I think there was a lot of love in our relationship. There's a lot of love with our families, my family, his family. I think we've built a lot together. And I think for us, like we really care about each other. So it's not like I ever wanted to forget about all the good years and just focus on the few bad years. I think it was like, it's just not working anymore. But I still care about you. I still want to be cordial with you. And I still want to do whatever I need to do to make sure that our kids are great and they feel that, we can coexist and not be together.
Hey, that's great perspective. I would agree that during a heated exchange, many people don't think about all the good times that they had and all the good things about the other person. And I'd agree that even though you're in a confrontation, figuring out what hasn't worked and going the other direction is a healthy approach to keeping a sensible and broad perspective. I hope our viewers will consider that sort of strategy if they ever find themselves arguing with an ex-husband or ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-husband or soon-to-be ex-wife. It's important to diffuse anger when things get contentious. In any event, I applaud you, Larsa. People talking through divorce issues don't always behave like grown-ups.
Well, I feel like in relationships, if people just focused on like the entire relationship and not necessarily like just the good years or just the bad years and kind of like assess it based on that, because I assess my relationship with my ex based on, we had so many good times. We had amazing experiences together. We, built things together. We, have 4 amazing kids together. And I don't want, in my mind, I don't want it to be toxic at the end because no one wins at that point. And I think once you come to realize that, I think that you're in a better place as a person. And as a woman, for me, I never wanted to have, just that negative energy around for my future, for my future boyfriends or husband or, my kids. Like, I think sometimes I've seen women that stay in that misery. They stay in that misery and they dwell on all these bad things that their ex has done to them and they just can't get over that. And all that really does is breed bad stuff for your own life, for your own energy. And I don't do that. I kind of live in the moment. I enjoyed my past and now I'm really enjoying my present. And, I teach my kids that, what, life's not going to be fair sometimes. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. But at the end of the day, like as long as you're doing the right thing, you feel like you're in your best place, that's all you can do.
Wow, powerful advice. Did you give that same advice to your friends when they were going through their divorces?
You have no idea how many of my friends have called me when they were going through their divorce and where they thought they were never going to, come out of this okay. And I had friends that were literally like on the verge of a nervous breakdown because it was so stressful. And I think it's really, really important to surround yourself with people that, can help guide you and people that are there for you and people that can help you escape from, reality. Sometimes you need that because I think it's, when you're dealing with lawyers and kids and no one's happy, by the way, like no one's happy about your divorce, like your family. I remember my parents were so upset. They were so disappointed. And it was hard for me because I felt like I was letting my kids down. I was letting my parents down. But at the end of the day, like I just had to make sure that I was happy and I had to make sure that I was in the right place for me and not necessarily for my parents and not necessarily for my kids. It's been a few years. I feel like my kids are older. They're on their own path, they're on their own journey. And, if the roles were reversed and they weren't happy, I think at the end of the day, you have to do what makes you happy. And as long as you are doing what you're supposed to with your kids, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine.
Now, you've been divorced about 3 years or so. And so one of the questions I'm often asked, and I know our viewers want an answer to, is, does it get easier over time? Has this life transition gotten easier for you the farther you've gotten away from it? Or is it something that you're still dealing with? And importantly, what's your philosophy when it comes to the bigger picture?
I definitely think it does get easier as, as the years go by, as your kids get older, as you're done paying attorney fees, it definitely does get better. I think there's like a rough patch when it's like new and shocking to everyone. I think it's embarrassing. You just feel like, oh, I'm such a failure. My relationship didn't work. But I feel like you shouldn't look at it like that. You should look at it like it was a great experience. I learned from it. I grew from it. And this is not my, end all be all type thing. It's just a phase in my life. And you have such a long life ahead of you. You have so many good things that you are going to have and experience. And don't dwell on the last few years, of your relationship that weren't the best years of your life. I don't care if you're 80, you still have so many good years ahead of you. I think if you just have that mindset and just looking into the future and, all the good things that you're going to do with your family, with your friends and your businesses, then like life is great.
I heard that one of the positive things that you do is you set up a regular date night with your kids. How does that work? Where do you go and what do all of you do?
I feel like for me, like my kids and I have date night where we spend Friday night together, we go watch a movie or we plan dinner. And I feel like we all get to choose. So if someone has like really great news, I'm like, hey, Sophia, you made, your cheer team. I think you get to choose where we go to dinner or what movie we want to watch. If my son who plays basketball if he has a great game, I let him choose. Or, if someone has a great suggestion, I say, oh my God, let's definitely go to that restaurant. But I feel like it's really important to like spend quality time with your kids. And I think it's probably more important during your divorce to spend time with your kids. Because I feel like when we were together, it was like they felt love from both places. But I do feel like once I was going through my divorce, I really had to like kick in and spend individual time with my kids and make sure that they felt good, that they were happy. And I check on my kids every day and I ask them every day, are you happy? Do you feel good? Is there anything that you feel like you would want to do that you're not doing? Or just to make sure that they feel good about themselves, because it is hard when your kids are juggling homes. When they're here one week and they're at your ex's house, it's definitely like a hard time for your kids. And I think it's really important as a parent to acknowledge that, your kids need so much attention when you're going through divorce. Like it's not necessarily about you at this point. It really is about making sure your kids feel good and they feel the love.
We like to share our go-to remedies with our viewers on what books or music or movies or comedy that they go to when they're having a bad day and they need a little lift. What is it you do with gaps of time to keep yourself inspired and productive?
I feel like I'm so busy with my kids and my businesses that I don't really have a whole lot of time to read. It's always like work stuff. Like I'm either shooting Housewives or I just came back from shooting The Traders. I have a new relationship. So I feel like for me, I'm more of a people person. I'm more of like, I like to spend quality time with the people that I enjoy being around. And I think that's like the number one thing. Spend time with people that motivate you, inspire you. That to me is like my go-to when I'm feeling down, when I'm not feeling great. I feel like I want to surround myself with people that are optimistic, that are positive, that are doing good things, that are inspiring me, because I feel like that really does help you get over the hump.
I understand you have lots of projects going on. Of course, you're one of the housewives of Miami, now in its sixth season. But what about your own personal business? Tell us what you're up to.
The businesses that I want to do are things that I'm passionate about, things that I love and I want to do where it doesn't feel like it's work. I think it's super easy to like fall into, I'm stuck at this job, I'm not happy, and to live that, that type of life. And for me, I feel like I always wanted to do things that I love and I'm passionate about. And so I created my Larsa Marie jewelry line because I love jewelry. My dad always gave me jewelry. And so I know exactly which piece came, what the occasion was for every piece. And so that's like my baby. But I'm also starting a tequila line called Alujo. And I've been doing this for about 2 years now. And it's finally coming to life. And I want to tell women out there, like, I feel like God has given us every tool we need to be amazing and to do amazing things. And I feel like it's never too late to do something, to create something, to be a part of something. And for me, like, I love starting these companies because I just feel like there's nothing better. It's like your baby and you see it kind of evolving. And I do feel like, just surrounding yourself with other like-minded people and people that can motivate you, like I said, and can help you. And so for me, I feel like that's really important. So I do try to focus on, being around people that inspire me, I learn from, because you can learn something every day. And I try to learn something new every single day.
Congratulations on all of that. Any parting words, Larsa? Anything that you can share about those times when you're feeling nostalgic or down or when you've hit the wall? or even when you feel like you're losing and not winning.
And it's okay to fail sometimes. It's okay. I feel like I've taken some L's in my life. I'm okay with the losses because I do feel like without the losses, I wouldn't have learned. And I think everything is a learning process. You take some L's, trust me, you'll have some W's too. You're going to have some wins. And I think just to have like a good attitude. And I know sometimes when you're going through divorce, you feel like you are defeated. Your life is over, but it really isn't. It's just a new chapter in your book, a new time for you to go out there and meet new people, start something, be a part of something, maybe go find a new job, something that's different. And I think it's always good to do things that are different that you're not comfortable doing. I feel like that's really important, not to get set in your ways. There's nothing worse for me than to see people that I know have great potential, but they're stuck in their ways. That is the number one cause of death for me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that. So I do feel like just, start something new, do something new, do a different workout, go to a different class, be a part of a community that, you may have felt like you weren't a part of, but you can be a part of. Why not?
Staying up and positive is something you've hit on several times during our interview today, Larsa. But there's something else I'd like to get your opinion on. Do you think it's important to keep a good sense of humor?
Yeah, first of all, it's really important to have a great sense of humor while you're going through divorce because it's a long process and people are not going to they're not going to want to be around you if you're miserable. You have a misery phase and then you have this is going to be over. It's going to be okay. And I think you have to laugh things off, and nobody wants to be around a miserable person. I'm sorry, your kids, your friends, your parents, nobody really wants to be around a miserable person. So I definitely feel like it is important to know it's going to get better and laugh it off. So I think if your husband left you for a younger woman, he's going to have to babysit. If he left you for someone that you think is better, it's probably not. I think you just have to laugh it off and just think that, I'm washing my hands from the situation. I wish the person nothing but the best. Good luck. And, good things are going to come your way.
Absolutely, I agree. And that's a good note for everyone in our audience. Simply laugh it off when you can. Any other parting thoughts, Larsa? Anything else you think that people in our audience should keep in mind as they go through their own divorces?
I think, going through a divorce is really hard. It's not easy, but I do feel like, you have to live your best life. And for me, I always want to live, in a great place. And I feel like a great place is in your head. That's the number one place where you can decide what you want in life. You can't decide, where you want to live sometimes, but you can decide how you want to feel inside your brain. And so for me, I feel like I've always wanted to make sure that I was happy and felt good. And I think it's important to surround yourself with good people, people that make you laugh, inspire you, you can learn from. And so my advice is basically live, laugh, love, drink, have a drink. It's okay. Your kids are going to be great. And just look at it as it was a chapter in your life. You have a whole book of beautiful things that are going to come your way. And I think just focus on that. The faster you get through with your divorce, the better off you are. I think sometimes when people go through it for years and years and they battle every single thing out, it just really takes a toll on yourself. And for me, I never wanted to live like that. I just feel like, let it be what it's going to be and let me go and have my life and my sanity and make sure my kids are doing well. And that is the number one thing that I would constantly remind myself.
Thanks so much for being a guest on the Hourglass People in the Know series. You certainly have given our viewers a good deal to think about. Inspiration with your uplifting affirmations, not just through the divorce, but beyond. Tune in soon for another episode of the Hourglass People in the Know series to hear what other well-known personalities have to say. Until then, like Larsa Pippen reminded us, tomorrow is another day. Make it a good one.